issue of all is you have to start now, because it is going to take some time to get everything structured and taken care of. You don't want to be out there and having somebody steal your idea because you didn't file the patent. So that's about all I have on the presentation. I went through it a little bit more quickly than I usually do because I'm sure there are a lot of people with questions out there. So Robert, if you want to open it up for questions, then I will be more than happy to do that, or discussions among the group.
Okay, so thanks, Brian. I have unmuted the entire audience. If anyone would like to ask Brian a question, go ahead and speak up now.
Here's a question.
Okay. Please speak up. I thought someone was saying a question. Oh, here's one. Brian, you read that in the chat window there?
From Louise, or yes. Does the average small business owner know about the Jobs Act? Do they think the crowdfunding is equity and know they have to wait for the SEC, or do they write it off and think of it as widgets? I think that the word is starting to get out there in the community. I think that the average small business, that 80% of the small business owners have heard the term crowdfunding, but most of them don't know what it is. And that's because most of them have either gone to the SBA for their original round of financing or are just now getting the idea that there are other resources. So I don't think there's a lot of other stuff in the Jobs Act. I don't think that the majority of people know that there's a lot of meat to it that doesn't include crowdfunding, but there are a lot of people out there who are being very, very successful doing the donation and reward side of crowdfunding.
Brian, I've got a question for you, if I may. What are the implications from a security standpoint of, let's say a company is raising money from investors, pick your number, $500 at a time, so they end up with hundreds of investors. Of course, in the past, that created a problem as far as violating Regulation D and other provisions. How does the law accommodate a company having 400 or 500 investors at small amounts?
Well, essentially, this Jobs Act supersedes all state blue sky laws except for enforcement requirements for fraud and things like that. So traditionally, as a securities attorney, if I was raising money in California, unless I was doing only accredited investors, I'd be limited to 35, up to 35 unaccredited investors, and then I'd have to make filings in other states on a state-by-state basis, and this act eliminates all of that. So although the enforcement requirements for fraud and other things will still exist within the states, and the Regulation D requirements for those aspects will also exist, as we know of now, and these have not actually been set in stone, for the most part, those regulations are going to be put by the wayside, and that's the whole principle of this, is because when people came to a professional like me, we had to do all this stuff, and it cost money. And
Sure.
So the whole concept is to reduce the cost, eliminate the unnecessary regulations by having a larger number of investors with a smaller dollar amount so that they can afford to lose it in the worst case, but avoid all the red tape of filing blue sky and other requirements.
Okay, and another question that occurs to me is you have someone with a startup company. Let's pick your number, let's say a couple of $100,000, which is in capital raising circles, that's considered to be a pretty small amount. At $100, $200, $500 a crack, it might take some time. Is your opinion, therefore, that this round is mostly that crowdfunding in most cases will be for a pre-seed or earliest seed stage for a company?
I think it'll be for both. I mean, if you look at the best practices and the actual time it's allotted for, or that's occurred with the people that have been very successful on the donation reward side, most of those offerings were out and completed within 30 days.
Wow.
So I don't think it's going to be a long process. I think, that probably is an exception to the rule, but certainly they're not going to allow an offering to be hanging out there for probably more than 60 or 90 days at most. So that's why it's going to be so incredibly essential for companies to make sure that they have spent as much time developing their crowd as they are with their business plan. And the way that they do that is that you just by putting up a video and your information on a Kickstarter, if you're on the donation side, there are, only 30% of the companies out there are actually, reaching their goals. So the successful people will understand that, in addition to structuring the business side of things, they're also going to have to be structuring the crowd sort of things and getting the word out about their company and how to best expand their crowd to generate interest in their company.
Understood. Would someone else like to ask Brian a question? Go ahead and speak up. Everyone's unmuted.
Hi, it's Scott Harvey. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yes, I can. Hi, Scott.
Hi. Great presentation. Thank you. My question is, and I know this, that what I'm trying to figure out is who the perfect type of candidate or perfect type of client is for this, knowing that, the whole point is to open it up so that many different people, many different companies, has access. But in your mind, I mean, established or startup, small, medium, I mean, what do you think is like the perfect guy where this is just a kind of a bullseye for him?
I mean, I think that one thing that will not change with regard to raising money is it's going to have a buzz to it. I mean, I don't think that if you're going to go out and open up a barber shop, you're going to be able to develop a crowd following that's going to be willing to do something like that. You might, but I still think that the essential element, just like it is with any company going out into the public marketplace, it's going to have a story behind it. And I don't think it matters whether it's a new company or maybe a new idea for an existing company. I think that an existing company probably has a reputation advantage. But if they, for example, if you kind of read through, and I use this example because it's the extreme. If you look through the Pebble Watch example, they didn't even have really a prototype, and they have all sorts of issues going on behind the scenes. But the principal issue is that they raised all of this money based upon a concept that we have a technology that we can do this. They had an idea that they had been in the electronics business before, so that helped them out. So when you go off and you've raised $10 million, and that's going to be far beyond the maximum on the equity side, but the principle is the same. It was a phenomenal idea. You look at the video, Scott, especially in your business, you'll see that it's a very catchy video. Our best practices for that, it's not going to be an informational, lecture kind of video. It has to be entertaining. And so I think that people that have all those elements put together, plus a great idea, are going to have an opportunity. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Scott, if I may speak up for a second, I was taught a lesson many years ago when I saw a VHS tape back in the days of VHS recorders of a company that had developed just a floor sealant. And this project came across my deck, and this company had raised over $3 million from private investors for a floor sealant. And to my amazement, they had an amazingly charismatic video. And so the presentation can sometimes be everything, and I'm not speaking to whether this project was a good project or bad or ethical or unethical, but it taught me a strong lesson that how you say what you have to say makes, especially in the realm of investment, a huge impact. And it also made me believe that anything could possibly get funded if you know how to say it right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, someone else with a question. Go ahead and speak up. All right. Well, while we're pausing for a moment, think of your questions, and I'll tell you about next week. It's an interesting follow-on to this presentation this week, and it's a presentation we've been trying to get on the Irvine Micropreneur Program now for a couple of months. Amy Sidak, who is a marketing research expert, has a company, House of Marketing Research, in that business, is going to present marketing research for startups and their investors. So this is very timely. It's around the idea that startup companies, in order to prove the validity of their concept, need to be able to conduct good enough marketing research that they can demonstrate that the product will be successful. And this is also from the perspective of if someone's an investor in a project, you might want to be able to get reasonable proof that the product's going to succeed. So that's next week. We'll finally be able to get Amy on presenting marketing research for startups and their investors. So I'll go ahead now and open the floor if someone else would.